So next, I would like to invite to the stage Nedko. Nedko Yankov is Chief Operating Officer of SFERATA 123. You might have seen their booth outside with the wooden dome houses. So he's going to talk about living independently in harmony with nature. So
yeah,
take it away.
Do you hear me good? Okay, thanks. So, as Nikova said, I'm Nedko. I'm so happy that I'm here. Looking in front of you, I see a core of individuals that are thinking about the challenges that we are facing right now and maybe thinking about the solutions of them. So today, I'm going to talk a little about our company, which is the Sphere 123, and a little more about living independently in harmony with nature. Future homes. SFERATA 123 is a company that design and construct energy-efficient eco dome houses. They are made from wood. I'm going to talk about a little bit later about them. What about the topic? Living independently in harmony with nature. I was thinking to tell you a story that comes from the future and describes the world we're living in right now and the world that is going to be in the future. But the speakers before me told a lot about that. So I think to be like an extension of the thought before me. So what happens in a normal day to a regular guy in this year? What happens? So we wake up, go to work, have a lunch, get back home, maybe spending some time with the family, with friends. And this is going every day, 5 days a week. But we have to mention that most of the people live happily right now. And this is because they can buy, they can afford the new smartphone, the new car, go everywhere in the world they want to, if it's possible, of course, almost everywhere. And this makes them feel happy. But they don't see the funnel that they're going through. This funnel give the opportunity for a certain circle of men. Yeah, when I say certain circle of men, you can understand corporation or government, it doesn't matter, that's how I call it. So they give we give the opportunity for this certain circle of men to exactly predict our behavior. If I should be more exact, 93% of the citizens of their behavior could be perfectly predicted right now. It's according to a Russian research from this year. All of this lifestyle that we're living now gives some very interesting bullets to think about. Air, food, and water pollution, magnetic field deficiency syndrome, which is something very interesting. I'm going to explain it a little bit later, more specific. The excessive consumption, and all of this is doing something very bad with our health. So the bad thing here is that the medicine is facing some health issues that are unusual for them, and it is really hard to conquer them. I'm going to talk about a little bit about one other conference, which was held here in Sofia. I'm not sure if it was in the Tech Park too. It was called Knowledge City, I'm sorry. And it was opened by our president, Rosen Plevneliev. And what he said, actually he described the world where the world that the governments are planning to make reality, make real. So 90% of the population will live in megapolises, and if we should be more correct, in 300 megapolises all over the world. So all the citizens are going to be connected in networks, just as we do now, on the field of energy, entertainment, transport, and healthcare, and many others. The difference between now and then is that today our smart gadgets are in our pockets, but then the gadgets are going to be in our bodies and in our minds. We can say that it sounds a little scary, and we will be right. All of this will make our digital profile really perfect and strictly describe our personality, from the look to the individuality and our behavior. So we can see that right now happening in China. Maybe some of you know about that. Okay, when we face this challenge, that's how I like to call it, not problem, we have to think about the alternative of this, and we have to know first the specific methodology that is used by the government. It is called the boiled frog. Do you know something about it? Okay, I'm going to explain. So when we put a frog in boiling water, the frog is going to jump out right away. But when we put the frog in cold water and heat it gradually, the frog is going to be cooked without even knowing. So we have to ask, is somebody cooking us right now? I know that every one of you know the answer about that, so we are here just because of that. And when we face this challenge, we have to think about the alternative of it. And from SFERATA 1, 2, 3, we called this alternative steps to nature. Looking for the perspective of how can we live totally independent in nature, we have to think about the construction we use for our houses, for our home. We have to think about how can we produce the energy we use, the food, entirely every source we need to live. So we are not alone. As we see, according to BUS research from the last year, 37% of the young population living in the cities is planning to migrate to smaller settlements. Once again, from booking this time, from the last year, 87% of the tourists are willing to travel sustainable with ecological and cultural reasons. This is a great sign that the time to do something is just right now. And that's the reason I am so happy that I have the opportunity to be here with you and speak about the solution. When we talk about our homes, we have to think a lot about ourselves and what are we as human beings and what make feel us happy, in harmony. So I'm going to speak about the problems, stress, aggression, and disharmony, enlightening 2 points. The first one is the cubic shapes. That's the normal shape of every conventional building right now. We can see in this room the shape too. According to research from the Ural Architectural Art State University. So the conclusion, the most negative impact on the human consciousness is generated by the cubic shapes. They cause stress, tension, controversy, aggression, and negative emotions. The other challenge that I'm going to talk about is the magnetic field deficiency syndrome. It's not so well known, I think, and I'm going to explain it closer. So if I have to be really correct and exact, I have to explain how our bodies function in this natural world on Earth. So, as human beings, we have our own natural magnetic field that have to be synchronized with the natural magnetic field of the Earth. So we can see the natural sources of magnetic field here: Earth's core, ionosphere, and Schumann's resonance. The element that gave us the opportunity to synchronize with them is the magnetite. It's located in our brain. So if we're free to synchronize with the natural magnetic field, we can feel the harmony and the happiness naturally. You can see that when you go to nature, to mountain, to the beach, it doesn't matter. But when we have artificial influences like metal grid in the foundation and walls, like radio frequencies and microwave radiations, so we feel discomfort, disorientation, and chronic diseases. I didn't write it, but actually we get ill from cancer because of that. I see that I don't have enough time to speak a lot about this, so I'm going to go through the presentation briefly. How we solve this problem, the spherical shape that we use in our buildings. So the sphere is the most harmonizing form, according to the same research from the last slide. We use golden ratio, natural air circulation, and great white characteristics. This is all about the spherical shape of a house. We can see here shapes are essential for the formation of human consciousness. This is according to architecture Vitaly Grebnev. And 35% of the human's health is defined by the feeling of inner harmony and balance. The other problem that I mentioned was with the magnetic field deficiency. So we don't use metal grid in the foundation because our construction is 8 times wider than the conventional building. So we have a cheaper foundation, and we use the only place we use the metal is in replaceable structural elements. Energy losses in the conventional building, we can see here the shapes and their optimal proportion of inner volume and the outliner lines. So here is the cubic form, and here is the spherical. In the conventional building, we have cold pockets. Yeah, it's logical. I don't have to explain it, I think. And thermal bridges. We can have when we use different materials to build the walls and the foundation. So, bad insulating characteristics. Here we can see what are the insulating characteristics of wood, aired concrete, bricks with many openings, normal bricks, and reinforced concrete. So why we are energy efficient? The cost for energy are up to 90% lower than the conventional buildings in our houses. The most optimal proportion of inner space to enclosing surface, as I told, is the spherical shape, aerodynamic shape, constant natural circulation of air, no thermal bridges, no must because of that. As you know, the wood has great insulating material. Because of the form, we have small length of the pipe systems, and of course, heat recovery climatization. I'm going to focus here a little bit about the ecological problems that we're facing when we talk about construction materials. I'm going to talk about the energy input. This is the primary energy needed for yield, production, installation, the installation, and transport of the material. So we can see here what are the numbers when we talk about wood, when we talk about bricks, plastic, steel, and aluminum. Something very important, more than 50% of the resources, of the resource consumption, and 20% of CO2 emissions are due to the production of building materials. Here we can see the materials and toxins and how they damage our bodies. I'm not going to speak a lot about it, so maybe next slide, because this is not very optimistic. How we solve this problem? We are fully ecological. We use only eco materials, impregnation without toxic materials, natural oils and waxes, zero content of formaldehydes, phenols, artificial acrylics, and pigments. So it's the same in the installation. It's totally eco. We use eco technologies for the heating of the building and for the production of the insulation and OSB materials. Why we think and do anything in this direction? It's about our independent living, and we want to find the greatest base for the use of renewable energy sources in order to achieve energy autonomy. And not only energy, but also all kinds of resources. Here we can see how settlement from 5 houses can act totally independent from the system. So we have to think about the secondary use of resources and energy, rational use and shared storage of energy and water resources, recycling of water and waste with the help of the permacultural garden, organic food production, financial independence, it depends on the village, and of course comfort and high standard for every citizen. When we talk about independent living, we have to think about the people we're doing it with. So here I'm going to talk about a little for the pyramid of sustainable society that we can build. There are some points that we have to think about a lot and be really careful and strict about them. It's the mission of the society in the name of what we are here and what we are doing. The other point we have to mention is the identity, who we are. Are we IT specialists? Are we doctors? Or we need every one of them? That's very important questions. We have to think about the values also. What are our values and principles? And of course, abilities. What are our abilities? What can we do? And the other point is our behavior. How do we contribute to the society? What we can do for better life of the society. And the last but not least, surroundings. What, where, and when do we use to contribute for the society? So this was a brief presentation of what we do, what we are facing right now. Here we can see some designs of our buildings inside. Of course, thank you. Live independently. Yeah. And
so
maybe
thank you for that. We don't have time for questions. You used up your time.
But
what I would suggest is they have a table outside.
Yeah.
Go and speak to them. They have some wonderful brochures. They can show you more pictures from their wonderful houses. And yeah, you can ask your question at that point.
Yeah. Feel welcome to speak individually with us.
Okay, there's someone. There's a burning question over there. Yes.
Burn us.
Someone will hand you a microphone so we can all hear you. Yeah.
Hi. Can you put your slide back in the sheet?
Sorry, I think we've taken it down.
Okay. I want to refer more to the slide that is showing the energy needed for production of the house and then the materials needed.
Yeah.
And I am all for natural materials, of course. And this is no argument about that. But we need wooden material to produce those houses. And my question is, where do we get the wood from? We are basically cutting out trees.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody actually read an article recently about the rebuilding of the cathedral in Paris. They ran out of wood, so they cannot actually make the roof. And it's all great, but where do we get the wood from? We are destroying more than the wood we can actually produce. Like, the trees have technical time to regrow.
Yeah.
Interesting point. I mean, can this be done successfully given how long it takes a tree for regrow, right? And sustainably, not successfully, sustainably.
Yeah, sustainable.
Yeah, because it is healthy to live in a natural environment, but at the same time, we are destroying natural environment to live healthy in a natural environment, kind of.
Yeah. So maybe I have to start with that if we want to live sustainable, close to nature, we have to use natural materials. That's first. And second, the wood is renewable source. Actually, it takes 50 years for one wood to be renewable. And I think that's answer your question. I don't know.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Maybe the solution would be to have stuff that you build, you can actually plant 50 trees.
Yeah, thank you. That's a perfect solution.
And then wait for 50 years.
Well, if you build a house for you, we can plant 50 trees.
Okay, thank you. But it's a very interesting conversation. I mean, you can continue it afterwards.
Yeah, we can continue outside. So feel welcome.
So let's give Nedko a round of applause.
Thank you.
Yeah.